You know, if someone was to ask me what the most truly surreal and amazing interview I ever did over, 35 years of journalism or whatever it's been, then my answer wouldn't be any of my rock journalism interviews with crazy metal bands. It would certainly be visiting Tom Baker at home to interview him. My childhood doctor. How absolutely bizarre. This happened in 2009 for Doctor Who magazine, and I'll always be grateful to DWM for giving me the chance to do that. Because what a dream. I can kind of vividly remember walking down this winding country path through a field towards Tom's kind of cottage-like house. And a very nice house it was too. And to be welcomed by Tom at the door, and then led through to the kitchen where he set about making me a cup of tea. And when the interview starts, the one you're about to hear, he is across the room with a kettle, I think, making me the tea. So the interview I did for Doctor Who magazine, the actual, tape, although it was a digital recording I did on a recording device, it was 2 hours and 17 minutes long, the whole interview. And it came out in 2 parts in Doctor Who magazine. If you look down below, you'll see an attachment of a PDF which contains both of the Doctor Who magazine features that came out. And I've added a written intro to that as well. So you're about to hear the first 28 minutes of the whole interview. And I hope you enjoy. Let me know in the community. Good day to you.
I saw an ad outside a Baptist chapel the other day.
Yeah.
Carpenter from Nazareth seeks labourers.
Thank you very
I
much.
thought it was quite funny. But when they're all standing up there saying, I believe in the resurrection of the body, and eternal life and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when I was a boy, Roman Catholics weren't allowed to be cremated because they thought that would bugger God about when it came to raising the dead. To be scattered all over the place.
Yeah, I suppose there is that.
But they've modified that now. They've modified everything.
To suit whatever.
Are you religious?
No, I'm not actually. No, I never have been. I kind of think there's some kind of evidence of creation in the world, but I kind of see every single system that's been built up just seems to be man-made, and so why would I want to subscribe to that? No one knows anything for sure, do they?
Absolutely. Do you take sugar?
No, okay, thank you.
All right.
I think we just have to wait and see, really. Maybe it'll be a nice surprise.
Yes. And if it isn't, you'll just have to come to terms with it.
I suppose if it isn't, we won't know much about it.
Do you want some orange juice as well, or anything?
Actually, that would be lovely, please, yes. It's funny, as I was walking down that long winding path, I was thinking...
Oh, you walked here?
I did from the B&B. It's literally just along the road, really.
Yeah.
10 minutes walk. But as I was walking down the long path, I was thinking, I'm prompt at the moment, but if this isn't the right path, I'm bugging.
Oh, yeah.
I had to go... What an idyllic setting, though. It's lovely, isn't it?
It is, isn't it lovely, yeah.
Marvellous. How long have you lived here for?
Just coming up 2 years.
Oh,
We
fantastic.
came back from France to live here.
Yes, of course. Thanks very much. That's right. Yeah, of course. Because there was a time when you were kind of going backwards, and you were a VIP on the Eurostar, weren't you? Really?
Yeah.
And coming back and forth to do things at the Strand, at the Stamp Centre, and
Yeah,
all kinds of things.
also, yes, I was doing a lot of Little Britain.
Oh God, yeah.
I'll just give that bumblebee.
That is quite a big one.
Yeah.
That's a proper English countryside bumblebee.
Oh, yes.
Marvellous. With Mail and I postcard. Are you a fan of the film?
Well, no, I'm not a fan, but I mean, I've seen it more than once, but I'm not particularly a fan. But I look at films. I'm a member of the band, of course, so
Oh yes.
I can always go out and see films in Piccadilly, or they'll send them to me.
Oh, that's very nice, isn't it? Having the pick and being able to pick and choose.
Well,
Marvellous.
if you're on the board, or if you're on then you have to look at a certain number.
Oh yeah. Can that be a bit of a bind, or is that?
Well, no, because I mean, anything really to avoid the dictatorship of television. You know, I love on the big screen to watch movies that I want to watch when I want to watch them.
Yes.
I don't watch anything on television except the rugby and the cricket.
Do you not? That's interesting. Have you ever been much of a TV
I've never
watcher?
been really a fan of television. No.
You didn't even watch yourself on Doctor Who?
No, I didn't. But that was because in those days we were. Life was more casual. I mean, it's a long time ago. So people were more casual in those days. And also Saturday was, football or the ale house or whatever. The other thing was, you see, I don't watch myself on television now, if anything is on, because I always felt really that once I'd done it, there was nothing I could do, and it was always a risk. You watch yourself and you think, I told the fella we could have done an extra take there and got that better. Or you look at it and say, that's a terrible piece of editing. And so that kind of... So I took no pleasure in that. I took the great pleasure in pleasing the audience. You know, people say, I like what you do, and they often do about Doctor Who. Like the fans turning out in Strand, or my invitations to, go to Doctor Who conventions, most of which I turned down because they're pretty fatiguing now. Those long signing sessions knocked me out of it.
I'm not surprised.
Because some of them are, 6 or 7 hours, and at the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham, that would be 10:30 in the morning till 6 o'clock.
And the thing is, everyone who's turning up, it's one of the most significant moments of their life, and you have to kind of live up to that, I suppose.
Well, when I say live up, yes, I do, but I mean, I'm very experienced at that. I mean, everyone's a fan of someone. There's nothing wrong. People sometimes are offhand about their fans, but it's the fans who create the objects, aren't they? So the other thing is, I actually know by sight hundreds of fans.
I bet.
I do. I know a good few by name. But so it's the same crowd, the same dedicated crowd who come to any of the events where I am.
Yes.
And then at the end of the day, the other actors like being with me because at the end of the day, I do the last. Not only do I do the signing session like everybody does, but at the end of the day, I do the last hour up on stage. But that's what the fans expect. I don't disappoint them. When it comes to nonsense, I'm something of a virtuoso.
If the fans want nonsense, that's what they're going to get.
I mean, we all need. What one person's nonsense is another person's, seriousness, isn't it? I mean, some fans do take me very seriously, which means that I can tease them mercilessly.
Yes.
But I am, as the years have gone by, I am fond of I've become very fond of the fans, because they're just so idealistic. Who fans, I suppose sci-fi fans, but Who fans particularly, seem a gentle crowd.
Oh, definitely, and, very worshipful. But how have you kind of felt about the obvious shift, I suppose, towards... obviously, fans who were kids are now like 30-somethings like me, and that's interesting. How have you kind of felt that kind of evolution?
Well, the thing is that they of course, a lot of those are introducing me sometimes in the street or at signing sessions to their children.
Yes,
I mean, I finished in 1980, was it?
Yeah.
So that's 29 years ago.
Yes.
So more than just in their early, some of them, some of the really dedicated ones are now in their 40s.
Yeah.
And they pass on just, like families do, like parents do, they pass on their interests to their children. So quite a lot of people do bring their children. And some people show me pictures of them. They say, look, that's me sitting on your knee when I was only 7.
Oh, how does that feel? Does that feel good, or does that make you think,
It amuses me no end, and I look at a kind of early middle-aged man who's gone bald and is worn out with domesticity, and I think, gosh, look at that. But it's because of the happy memories, isn't it? I mean, the thing is about fandom. fandom that endures. It's to do with the wonderful nostalgia, isn't it? I mean, being a fan of something. The reason, the warm feeling you have about being a fan and being with a group of other fans is that you're sharing an experience which reminds you of when you were young, and when you were full of hopes, and when the world was different.
Definitely.
In each generation, I think, it was different in those days. I mean, television before the video recorder bonded people, didn't it? In the sense that we watched it in real time all together.
Oh yeah, all the and there were more family shows, and
you had to do it. You get to see it because otherwise you didn't know what they were talking about in the office next day or at school next day.
Yeah.
But mind you, to some extent that still goes on now, doesn't it? In the sense that children now, children watch what children watch. Children are very conforming, aren't they? Otherwise, they get to school and they feel out of it.
Oh yeah, true.
If you actually said to a modern child now, you can't watch television, I think that might call. I don't know.
There'd be trouble.
I think there'd be trouble. Because they'd say, well, what about in the schoolyard? I wouldn't know what they're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Anything that separates someone from the pack. I'm curious though, have you ever kind of felt the kind of fan worship of someone or something that others have felt about you? What are you or have you been a fan of?
I've been a fan, of course, of great cricket players or great rugby players or football players. And occasionally I've met them and been very touched to see those old warriors that I admire so much. I didn't know about in television. I mean, there are people I've watched, of course, in the past, which gave me enormous pleasure.
It doesn't have to be.
When I meet them and I say, I'm a fan, like I was when I met Richard Bryars and Monica de Glen or Susan Hampshire or people like that. Paul Ennington and Paul. Yes, there are other actors I've been fans of. The mighty Paul Schofield and Michael Jackson and Ian Holm. Those people I admire enormously.
Have you ever felt that kind of nervousness that fans sometimes feel when meeting you? Have you ever felt that kind of butterflies in the stomach, kind of, good God, they're real, they're standing in front of me?
I don't think I get butterflies in the stomach and meet the actors,
No.
I think I got butterflies in the stomach when I met Laurence Olivier, because at that time I wanted to join the National Theatre. He was late, and because he was a kind man, I think I got into the National Theatre because he was sorry to be so late. He was held up in a studio.
That's very good.
And his secretary kept ringing in and saying, he's going to be at least 2 or 3 hours late. And I was on an overnight from York when I was in Cabaret, and had to be on a train at so long way to get back to York. I had to be on a train at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I was at the National Theatre at 10, and Larry didn't get there till 1:45, I think.
Right.
And he was desperately sorry.
That's very late.
Yes, he was held up at Shepperton Studios where he was doing some recording the end of the world or something like that. And so I felt nervous and apprehensive. And I think I probably dried over a couple of speeches, but it didn't matter about that.
How old were you
then?
then?
I think because, that was about 1967.
Okay.
And so he said to me anyway, look, he said, I was the only one there that day, you see. So he said, there are a lot of people there, and I invented this a play. I invented a scene from a play I wrote on the train coming down called Blame Me on History. They all wrote it down. Oh, Blame Me on History. William Fleming, that was my Uncle Willie. And so, but he didn't know what to make of me, and so he just came up. He's very nice, kind of gave me a little nudge and said, look, why don't you just join us anyway?
Aww.
And that was so sweet because he was kind. I was nervous then, yeah. I've been nervous, of course, before the first night.
Oh, I bet.
Everyone gets nervous about that, but it's rather a thrilling kind of nervousness.
Yeah. I know the feeling. Well, what I'd like to do is just obviously we need to cover the Hornet's Nest, and that's right and good. And then it'd be nice if we could just go back to when you kind of started on Who, and then proceed as chronologically as we can. Really, that would be quite nice.
Yeah. Well, the Hornet's Nest I agreed to do because Nick Courtney was going to be in it.
Ah, yes.
So it was going to star Nick Courtney and Tom Baker, and then Nick became ill.
I know.
And so now it's Richard Franklin and Tom Becker. So I didn't know anything about Richard Franklin. And I haven't met him yet, because, you know, we're doing this in great big blocks for me.
Yes.
They don't hire
Yes.
actors now. You can't have all the actors in the studio like in the old days.
No.
Being paid a big by the day. They get paid, I suppose, by the hour or something like that.
I guess so, whatever. Cost effective.
Yeah. So, but I've done all the I did stuff with nuns and, nuns and other kind of creatures that I bumped into. Because, I mean, of course, we've done a Swarm one before, haven't we? I think the Ark in Space, was that a Swarm?
There was the Ark in Space and the nucleus of the Swarm in The Invisible Enemy.
Was it?
The one that looked a bit like a prawn. You might remember that one. That's the story that K9 was introduced in.
Was it?
Yeah. Swarm was before, yes, that's true. I suppose my first question is, which you've kind of just answered there in a way, but why now? Why? This is such a delightful surprise for fans. I'd imagine that...
Well, it's because, I'm quite choosy, really. I mean, sometimes people make me offers or make suggestions to me, and it doesn't really inspire me. People are persuasive and say it's funny, and they kindly, after a recording session, I recorded a book last year or something, and I met these people, Kate and the, Michael Simpson, I think, is a commissioning editor.
That's right.
And we were laughing at lunchtime and talking about how it could be, the old Doctor Who's could be exploited, for the fans.
Yeah.
If you came up with the right stories. Of course, inevitably, these kind of stories now, they can't write a great big play, it'd be very expensive. It's the way of reading stories now is someone's driving the narrative. And when they come to very good scenes, as you know, they fade through, and you hear people enacting those scenes.
Yeah,
but the real weight of the story is carried by the narrator in the style of reading a novel.
Yeah. Which is good.
And that day, because I was funny, and then they rang me up and said, listen, we've got a writer who's written up a story, and they wanted Nick, because they knew how fond everybody is of Nick. Everybody loves Nick Courtney. That's how it happened. So that's all. I mean, I'm perfectly open to any ideas. I think Doctor Who could still work in very short chunks on the radio.
Oh,
in the style of, Dick Barton.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think also, there could be some amusing scenes, couldn't there, with other Doctors, couldn't there?
Oh, of course. I suppose it's just you haven't reprised your role in so long that it's... I think, a lot of fans would have given up hope of ever hearing any sort of, new Fourth Doctor adventures.
Maybe they do. Maybe they will. And also, of course, I very rarely do interviews now, unless it's, for something like this.
Yes.
I think I do one for Guardian magazine. Oh no, I turned it down. I turned it down.
You almost did an interview for a Guardian magazine.
Yeah, that's right. I should have, but somehow or other I wasn't inspired by the letter. I think, there's an awful lot of journalism now about quite well-known actors or whatever you are. Of course, celebrity interviews, isn't it? These 5-minute things. Or what old Time Lords think about new architecture, like, what do I know about architecture?
I'm sure you know a great deal.
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, I don't want to be going up to London and meeting people who want to ask me about that kind of thing. Actually, somebody rang me up the other day from the Observer or the Times about some series of articles they write about people who say, this I have learned. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't actually. No.
I thought, Christ, you say, oh yeah, they put it rather euphemistically. They said it's, the opinions of golden oldies. I don't think I want to do that really.
A compliment, yes, a slightly backhanded one. Yeah. Well, how did you feel about reprising the role? I mean,
do you mean on the radio? Just this on the?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. It was effortless because
stepping into old
yeah,
slippers.
it wasn't a reprise. It wasn't. Doctor Who is not an acting role. No, they're not really.
I know.
I mean, Sherlock Holmes is not an acting role, except in the kind of show-offing sense of phrasing and stuff, or scoring off people. Because heroes, most heroes, those popular heroes like Holmes and Bond and Doctor Who and everything, they don't really... You see, on television, you must have noticed, when a character gets to a big audience on television, without exception, I think, what happens is, at the moment that character is hitting big figures, by that I mean it's going to be recommissioned, those characters freeze. There's no development.
Right.
That's what they freeze. They don't change their attitude at all until usually they're being written out, and then they might be written out in a dramatic way, or fellow saying, I've wasted my life, whatever it is. But so the fun of playing those characters is how to be surprising within the utter predictability. You know, Doctor's going to win, you know, that James Bond is going to win, you know, that Holmes is going to crack it. So within that, how do you just make it witty and amusing? You know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I did Doctor Who, I mean, I think the happy memories I had of it was there was no question of acting. You know, I'm not good at acting, I think, but when I'm quite good at this performing acting, but, which is not always the same. But and so I didn't have to reach for it. You know, I just didn't reach for it. It just happened.
So the Doctor was Tom Baker.
Well, that's right. But I mean, I think that you know that. Yeah, that's right. It was effortless. I just found it, even though it was very galling to know that, you know, for a long time after I took it over, the writers were still writing for John Pertwee, who had imposed so powerfully a big personality on the part. And so there was still that kind of terrible, still goes on really, that terrible kind of put-down kind of, John Pertwee was absolutely terrific at putting people down, being sarcastic. I'm not really very good at that. Sarcasm doesn't much interest me, really. I must prefer a kind of benevolent lunacy. Because, you know, because I'm an alien. And sometimes when they write for me, I think it doesn't sound very alien. in that benevolent sense.
Yes.
How do you illustrate an alien who actually comes from somewhere else? And of course, you know, to cop out is that the aliens never actually describe what it's like where they are, because one of the problems about science fiction, science fantasy is how would you describe, if you really do come from another galaxy, how would you describe, you know, what sort of food they have or drinks that they have? It's very difficult. In science fantasy, it's much easier because you just dodge it. In science fiction, it's very much harder to describe futuristic things because the ordinary artifacts of existence are quite hard to imagine.
Yes.
I mean, you know, when you think about this, I mean, I remember when Grundig used to make, you know, tape recorders you couldn't carry.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
Yeah, I remember doing a computer commercial I was talking to Sue about the other day for Australia about nearly, I don't know, how many years, donkeys years ago, and they were as big as fridges.
Yes, that's true.
That's right, I think it was called Prime Computers.
I remember. Oh yeah, that's.
So if you're into describing vehicles or dentists or I don't know what hats, how do you? It's very difficult to do that. The easiest way out, of course, is to cop out.
Yes.
And just say, look, it's too complicated to tell you, or rather like that, get down, Bobby, get down. Come on, stop it. They're very soppy. This is a lurcher.
Ah, very nice.
Oh, she's very sweet. Yes. That's lovely, yes.
So.
And I go out with her sometimes 4 or 5 times a day when I'm here.
Really? That's good though.
Well, we can walk down the woods and I'll show you. And I pick up sticks that make little fires and things like that. Or
Oh, really?
Repair fires, yeah.
You're a fire starter.
Well, I've always liked bonfires, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Interesting now.
I'm a bit scared of fires, me. Other kids at school played with Bunsen burners and I was just like, no.
Yeah, that didn't happen to me. We didn't have Bunsen burners. They hadn't been invented maybe when I was.
Really?
They must have been.
I'm not sure.
No, I didn't go to that sort of school. We mostly did theology when I was at school.
But I mean, because you drew on your own personality for the Doctor, recording the Hornet's Nest, all you have to do is kind of be yourself and read the lines.
Absolutely, yes.
Is that it?
And
Great.
Well, I mean, everything is in tone, isn't it? I mean, it isn't what you say. It is what you say. It's some prodigious piece of news. But in the ordinary way of communication, it's the tone that matters.
Yes.
It ain't what you say as a songster, it's the way that you say it. That's why when people say things to each other, and they say, "You're looking very well today," and people say, "Oh, why are you saying it like that?" You say, "What do you mean I'm looking very?" I mean, you just said you're looking very well today. And the person said, "What do you mean by that?"
Was I not
Because
looking
of
well
the tone,
yesterday?
because we're mishearing a tone,
Yeah.
just the same as fights or uproar. That in the Home Office records, which in my out of work past I used to read to pass the time, quite a lot of these kind of almost spontaneous, inexplicable murder, the killings that used to take place, the recurring phrase, according to the Home Office, they would work, "He looked at me in a funny way." But that people, we need to decode, don't we, the way people are looking at us.
Signals.
That's why we send little smiles, or say sorry, you know, or do that, little gestures like that, or we reinforce our feelings by all sorts of sign language. And otherwise,
Sure.
drunks can't. As an example, drunks can't decode it. So drunks say, "What are you looking at?"
Yeah.
And you say, "What?" You say, "What are you looking at?" You say, "Well, I'm just looking at that picture over there." And he says, "Oh, yeah." Assuming that just because you're looking in a direction, you're looking at me.
Yeah.
So people used to say, "Oh, sometimes I'm drunk. You looking at my girl?" And I says, "Yeah." You might say, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Oh, really? I don't like that." You say, "Oh, I was just about to congratulate you on your fabulous taste in girls."
It should be
To which you might
flattering.
say, "Oh, right. That's great. It's fun."
Has that happened to you before? Is it? Perhaps
But
at
I
some
mean,
point.
lots of, yes, it has happened to me in many ways, because often in the past I've bumped into people who are rather hostile, not often, but they're rather hostile, because they're hostile to anyone who's getting attention.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting that they do, sometimes they do that, yes. Occasionally that's happened to me, not often, thank God, because I was playing such a benevolent part. I mean, actors that I know in the past have played big men like Sean Connery, or the guy who played Callan, what was his name, Ted Woodward. I mean, they couldn't go out on their own at the heyday. They could not.
Wow.
Otherwise, so everywhere they went, if they walked into a pub for a beer, someone would say, "Are you Callan?" I remember Ted Woodward telling me that. I said, "Are you Callan?" He said, "Well, yes." I said, "Come on, outside, let's see how hard you are."
Oh God, yeah. Absolutely. That must be
that's
terrible.
terrifying, eh?
No,
and
that'd
Ted
be no fun.
Woodward is such a sweet, gentle soul, you know.
Well, yes, I'm sure that didn't go down so well. So, I mean, if we can just rewind a little bit,